Hey friends, welcome back to this episode of the Your Project Shepherd Construction Podcast. Remember, we teach that every successful project has these 4 key components that are demonstrated by the simple drawing of a house. The foundation is proper planning, the left wall is your team, the right wall is communication, and the roof, protecting it all, is proper execution. Have all 4 of those components in place and your project will succeed. Today, I am joined once again by my friend Toner Kirsting with Toner Home Matters.
Hi, guys.
And also today, I am joined by Robert Carril with Tile Roofs of Texas.
Hello, how are you?
And somebody's phone is ringing in the studio. Is that Robert? Uh-oh.
Oh, Robert's got a phone call.
Uh-oh.
Hello, God. Oh, it's not that. I think it's important to note that we don't have professional podcasters to come on this show. These are actually people who own businesses that don't do this every single day.
Exactly.
Right? So they come in and he's taking a phone call. He's like, okay, hey, that's regular work today.
I'm not taking the phone call.
That's fine.
We're off to a rough start today. I messed up the intro twice. The phone rang, but here we are. We're gonna keep this part in the podcast. We're not gonna cut it just to make it seem like we're real.
It's the middle of the summer. It's like 104 degrees outside. It's horrible outside. So I think we're doing pretty good right here.
Yeah, I've got heat brain.
Yeah.
And, Robert owning a roofing company, I'm sure that you've been on a few bad spots.
I'm talking to my supplier in Ontario, Canada, and he can't believe it's 100. The other day, 107.
Yeah.
So, Robert, tell us about Tile Roofs Texas. Tell us about your history, how you got into the business, and kind of what services you guys offer.
We were founded in 1994. So what is that now? 30 years? Right at 30 years?
Yep.
Before that, I worked for a home builder. We were in Clear Lake. We did a few tile roofs. I thought that would be it was growing. I was really unhappy where I was. So I walked in one day, threw my keys on his desk and said, see you later. And then, 30 years later, here we are. We've always strived to be quality and top end, and we've almost gotten there.
So aside, tile roofs is in your name, but I assume that you do other stuff besides just tile roofs?
Our specialties are tile and slate roofing. And through the years, we've grown. If a builder likes us, he's going to use us for everything, so he doesn't have any problems. But with that, we do all the copper flashing. We have now an architectural sheet metal shop to do many architectural items, dormers and finials, and even some interior things. So it's kind of grown from there.
Awesome. And you guys know each other how? What's the story? What's the connection here?
Well, of course, Houston's a really big, small town. I'm a little bit of a disruptor in my industry, and Robert can be a little bit of a disruptor in his industry too. So probably about 6 years ago, we said, okay, we should probably get to know each other. Funny thing is, I reached out to Robert and said, hey, I'd like to, sit down and talk with you. And he's like, I almost reached out to you a couple of times also. So we started working together, especially because we shared a lot of our clients already, our architect clients and our builder clients, because we do so much high-end work. And especially when we get to concrete tile, clay tile, slate roofs, when we're having issues related to those, it's really delicate work. And I needed to be able to give a referral that I could trust is not going to come back to me and create other problems. So Robert's been great for that, especially on the waterproofing side, because we could be dealing with a copper flashing issue. But in order to fix that copper flashing, we've got to remove, Boston slate off a house and then put it back like you never knew it was there. And I've used Robert also for legal projects before, where we've had really, really high-end roofs that were not installed very well. You remember that project, and you referred me to a project up in the Woodlands about a year and a half ago, and it had a horrible tile roof that was up in Carlton Woods. Remember that project?
Yes, well, we do some work up there.
Yeah.
It's amazing, as everybody would know, that somebody's building a $5-10 million home and they really don't have a qualified third party watching over them.
Yep.
If you get out in the country, Chapel Hill, they have nobody. The builder and the owner, and nobody's watching the project. And if the trades are not qualified, it's unbelievable. I mean, if that owner was doing a business project, he would have consultants all over it.
Yep.
But they're go build a $5 million house in the country, and it's just amazing how that goes.
Yeah, I think it's the deal where the builders oftentimes kind of take bigger projects than maybe they should have, or something that's larger than what they usually do. They're more experienced with, and they don't have the trade base to do the higher end stuff. So they're using kind of their normal roofer that does their $1 million houses or less, that just puts on comp shingles all day. And then now they're asking them to do something that's above their head. And again, like you said, when there's no one checking on that to make sure it's done properly, you get a bad spot.
And you know what's interesting? You said you started in 1994. It was around 1998 that we saw the really big rise in Mediterranean and Tuscan architecture. Mm-hmm. So you went from a good number of tile roofs to that being the predominant architectural style for about 10 years.
Without a doubt, yes. And that's very, very true. And we're importers now, and it's not all of our own material, but a lot of material. And that architecture has driven from tile roofs for 10 years or so. Then the slate, design came along, and lots of steep slate roofs. And now with the modern houses coming in, lots of metal and lots of flat roofs.
Lots of flat roofs, which are not my favorite type of roof by any means.
If it's done right, it works.
If done right, it can work for a really, really long time. But also the flashing standards have totally changed because we have a higher rate of water per rain incident. So we used to, you can go to old slate roofs on a 1936 house and you have 4-inch copper at best. Now it's very common for us to have the 8 to 12-inch copper flashing heights.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you guys do all that in-house because the warranty for a roof is complicated without dividing it, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so you guys try to do as much turnkey as possible?
We do 98% of our work in-house.
Got it.
Yeah.
And how do you handle other trades that transgress the roof, like a plumber for his stack?
We pretty much tell him to put his pipes to the roof, and we take over from there. We don't let other trades do any of their own flashings.
Got it.
Like on a comp roof, they would do all their own flashings.
Okay.
Because when it leaks, they're going to call us. They're not calling the plumber.
Yeah. So do you carry that after you finish a house? Do you carry that initial nervousness after the first rain? Like, okay.
I would say that 15 years ago we did.
Yeah.
Today I don't, because my guys do it right. They've been trained to do it right. We watch the jobs. One of our say we sleep when it rains.
Yeah.
Mother Nature's our best salesman. So, when we have a big rainy season, we get more work.
Yep. Well, and one of the first times I ever met you was on a low-pitch Tuscan roof where they were trying to blame the roof for the moisture issues inside the house. And if for those that aren't familiar with Mediterranean Tuscan-style roofing, it's a really, really low-pitch roof typically. So the attics are extremely small. And what I would go up there and find is the complaint was that there was water all over the ceiling. Well, the moisture was actually coming from the air conditioning equipment and the ductwork because we had the world's tiniest little bitty attic, and it was super, super hot, and of course freezing cold AC equipment. And the client kept trying to fix it with more ventilation, and it was not a ventilation problem. It was architecturally should never have been a ventilated attic.
Or they would fix it with more insulation.
Yes,
they would reduce the temperature in the attic, which would make things sweat worse. In the old AC systems, the air temperature in the attic needs to be somewhere around 10 degrees hotter than it is outside.
Mm-hmm.
So convection works and the attic drafts.
Yep. And on those style of roofs, now you're not an attic ventilator, you're a roofer.
Correct.
But when there's a ventilation problem, you typically get the phone call.
We get the phone call.
Yeah.
Well, we're the ones who have to put the vents in.
Yeah.
It's an AC design issue.
Yep. And we need to remember, for those watching, attic ventilation is a northern methodology. It was really there to prevent ice dams inside your attic, or at the roof. So that is not it's not a southern principle. It just, like all building codes, they come from the north down to us and we adopt them. And code says, if you ventilate, you must ventilate like this. It does not say you must ventilate. So there is no requirement by code to ventilate your attic. But attic ventilation is dependent on Mother Nature to help it be successful. And Mother Nature's freaking horrible. She sucks. So she's not nice. So how many times have you chased your tail on a ventilation problem that had nothing really to do with you?
We chase leaks and ventilation issues that don't have anything to do with us because, well, that's not our job.
Mm-hmm.
We have uninsulated pipes in attics that leak, and I have builders yell at me and say, right, it's the pipe, not you. It only leaks when it rains. Well, it's only 105% humidity when it rains.
Yeah.
And the attic's at 70 degrees, and everything is sweating.
Mm-hmm.
And uninsulated pipes sweat like crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's leaking on the first floor ceiling of a 2-story house. It's probably not the roof.
And I had a builder say that to me today. How come I only notice this when it rains? I'm like, because you only look up when it rains.
Well, no, but it's the humidity is so much greater in the unair conditioned spaces.
Mm-hmm. Most definitely. And that's once you hit dew point, and then we get that rapid drop in temperature, and all of a sudden you hit dew point even faster. And you are, once again, looking up during that time. You're like, I'm going to prove it right now. I'm like, well, go prove it on a Tuesday when it hasn't rained for 4 days straight.
Yeah.
Right. And that's still sitting there. We are dealing with, my first phone call that came through today was an AC condensate line it's just a big wet line going down the ceiling of the second floor. And they're like, it's only a 2-year-old house. Like, why is this sweating? I'm like, because the insulation value on that line was not rated for 105 degree temperatures. I'm sorry. It's hotter than that house was designed to operate at. So, if you had to tell me a little bit about your yard, because I think it's actually one of the coolest places. And if you haven't gone on tour, Curtis, it's worth it. How long have you been at the current location you're at?
Since 99.
99. And how many dogs are on the premises?
Well, now there's none, but there was 4. It's in 99. It was not the best neighborhood.
That's right. Yeah, you really have seen a big transition.
Oh yeah.
You should have bought the whole neighborhood in 99.
That would be nice. Maybe I wouldn't be roofing anymore.
That's right. But you keep a lot of your old stock, and then why is that?
Well, we do lots of repairs. We sell now to other roofers, and from the repairs, if we have leftover tile, we keep it because we're going to go repair something one day and we're going to need it.
Yeah.
We import some exotics that we have. We do some re-roofs, and if the tile is valuable that we take off, we'll keep it and we'll resell it.
Yep. So and also this is an open air storage space. So especially the tiles on top, their patina is matching the patina on the roof. So it's not like we're going and grabbing a reclaimed tile. It's like, oh yeah, I've got one of those, but I also have one of those that's been out in the open the same length as the roof on the tile on the roof. So we have the same, what I like to call environmental patina. It's the same amount of mold on it, right? Like, yeah. I've got moldy tiles.
Yeah.
So we can put those things on there.
But it's become very valuable to keep a lot of that.
Yeah. So, and I did know that other roofers will come to you because they know you have those resources.
Yes, all the time.
Yeah. And, of course, in the state of Texas, the person who's doing the demo has salvage rights. That's unless the owner reclaims salvage rights go to those that do the demolition. So if you take the tile off, it's technically your tile.
It is our tile. And we also, to eliminate that question, we stipulated that in our demo contract.
Got it. And let's talk about which tiles. Can you walk on clay tile once it's
Sure,
up?
yeah.
Okay. How do you do that without breaking the tile?
You walk on the tops. And everybody wants to walk in the pans, but you walk on the tops.
Okay.
Now, a big 250-pound guy is not going to get around up there and dance.
Mm-hmm.
So if we have stucco repairs above lower roofs, we're going to take the tile off if it's large and then put it back. But for the most part, for most quality tiles, you can walk on it.
Okay. And that's true for concrete too, right?
It's true for concrete.
But what about slate?
It's true for slate.
Which is the one that we had to wear felt shoes for. Metal, right?
Yeah, for metal. Well, just tennis shoes for metal.
Tennis shoes for metal.
Yeah.
And now how much have you seen a rise in metal roofing?
Oh, definitely. With the modern houses being designed today, yeah, lots of metal roofing.
Got it. And have you seen anyone you're still doing all of your metal roof on top of sheathing, right? On top of decking?
Yes.
Okay, not straight to the rafters.
No.
Okay. I have a project right now I got to get you out in Austin, outside of Austin. Straight standing seam right on top of the rafters, no sheathing, and then they spray foamed it with close cell foam. It was all stuck in place.
I hope they never have a problem.
Seriously?
No, they have a problem right now. They have a significant problem.
I have never seen that done.
Oh, yeah.
It's not going to, I mean, if you did standing seam metal roof here, well, anywhere, the rafters are horizontal or vertical. You have horizontal slatting.
Mm-hmm.
They have to at least have that.
They do. They have horizontal slats every 18 inches.
Okay. How old is the house?
1 year.
In 5 years, every one of those horizontal slats will show up.
Yep.
from weather, contraction and expansion through the years, they're going to form around every one of those slats.
It's already waffled. It looks like
Yeah.
a Belgian waffle from the outside.
And when you take the roof off and they spray foamed it, all the foam's coming with it.
Well, the problem is they did closed cell, so it's structural. So I had to remove the rafters too.
Fun.
Yeah, this can be a lot of fun.
Sounds like a great project.
It's and it's a big house.
One thing I wanted to touch on before we get into some of the failures and
Mhm.
waterproofing issues, for people who are listening who don't know anything about tile roofs, slate roofs, two questions. One, what are the advantages of doing a tile roof, a slate roof, and what's the lifespan of that product? Is that a lifetime roof? Is that a 50-year roof? Kind of what's your take on why tile roofs, slate roofs, concrete roofs are good?
If you use a tile, all of this is quality, right? If you use a quality tile roof, a quality slate roof, most all concrete roofs are the same. And copper flashing and proper underlayment, it's easily 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
I mean, everything's going to need repair. Tree falls on it. It's not going to fix that. Hailstorm would have to be tremendous where it was knocking out windows of cars and things before you would have any damage. But I mean, it's a 100-year roof. Copper flashing, it's a 100-year roof.
And cost-wise, in comparison to comp and metal, I tell people as a rule of thumb, right? This is not a hard and fast rule, but a metal roof's going to be a little over double the cost of a comp roof, maybe 2.5x.
Correct.
How much more is a tile roof or a slate roof?
3 to 4 times
Comp?
over a comp.
Okay, got it.
Okay, I mean, you could push it to the 3 times. Once you get into that market, they want something exotic, and it can be 4 times. And it can, I mean, we don't want to go there, but, it could be wherever you want it.
Sure.
But, sure, 3.5 times would be common.
But if you're talking about a house that you're going to be in for a long time, or it's a certain price point house where that's expected, I mean, again, if it's lasting you 50 to 100 years, I mean, that's a one-time expense versus a every 15-year expense for comp, or every 20, 30 or whatever it is for metal, or 40, 50 maybe on metal. But it's a whole nother long-term product.
I mean, a good metal roof is 50 to 75 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Issues come with designs these days that are not advantageous to roof draining quickly. High pitches are great, and we have, just with the modern design, some 2 and 3 pitches which are just really low, and the more quickly you can get the water off the roof, the better.
Yeah.
And it's just not going to happen with a 12 and 12 coming back down on a 2 and 12 and the wind blowing up the roof. It's just going to be an issue.
Problems happen the most on low pitches, and then also on any real complicated roof where there's a lot of intersections and a lot of different shapes coming together. That's where the failures tend to happen a lot, right?
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
And so how do you mitigate that?
Proper flashing, long-term underlayments, and make sure that the craftsmen in the field get things done right. That's probably the biggest thing. I mean, the builder never goes up there, the inspectors never go up there, so we go up there and make sure when we finish a job, we have pictures of everything. We send it to the client with, their final bills and pictures of all the things on the roof that you can't see. And
that's a great point. Like, the roof is, I think we've probably touched on this before, but the roof is one of those things that people just don't get a chance to look at and inspect. Or they have the chance, they just don't do it.
They just don't do it.
Right? The builder, the super, they're not wanting to climb up on the roof, especially on a 10, 12, whatever pitch roof. They're not wanting to get up there and mess with that. And most of them aren't using drones to go up there and fly around and check it out. And so you're really trusting your subcontractor to have done it the right way. And when you're going for the low bid guy, he's probably not checking it either.
No.
And likely he's subbing it out too, right? A lot of the roofers are subbing this stuff out to other crews.
To a trade, right?
Yeah.
To a crew that they don't even know.
And
For sure.
Are your guys are subs, or they're all your guys?
They're all our guys.
Got
hourly.
it.
That's a huge difference.
A huge difference.
Especially when it comes to payroll.
Yeah.
So I mean that's a question that you should ask your roofer, for those listening, or ask your builder. Hey, is your roofer self-performing, or is your roofer charging you $400 a square and he's paying another guy $350 a square and he's pocketing the $50? a square difference, because that's what a lot of them do.
Mm-hmm.
And in kind of business to business kind of conversation, when you started, you weren't self-actuating all your product, right? You were subcontracting when you very, very first started, like in 94, correct?
Our crews were always in-house,
Okay.
but we definitely bought our products, everything from other suppliers.
So from day one, you've been self-actuating. You've been installing your own products with your own people.
I mean, I would say day one. How about day 10?
Okay.
Day one, after I got screwed
Yeah.
a couple of times,
Yeah.
you know, I'm like, this is not working. I mean, you don't have control where they go.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you need them tomorrow morning at a job, and I need to break a crew off and go help a builder. We're there.
Yeah. I would tell you that I've been on major houses with major roofing going on, and I was on one the other day, and then it was risky walking around the outside of the house. The amount of, they were doing slate, and the amount of chips coming off that roof that was 3 stories up was flat out dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been on Robert's projects before, and I didn't even know the guys were up there. They were dropping things. Well, I saw the buckets coming down, right? Like broken, because you're going to chip a tile. There's no way that's going to not happen.
We put safety fences up. You have to do that. Yeah. I mean, you can't stop the job if somebody's working overhead.
Yeah, most definitely. So let's talk about flat roofs real fast.
Okay.
You've seen a rise in them, correct? Is there, if you had to choose the type of flat roof that you want to utilize, what would you select?
Today, TPO, vinyl roofing, those have become really popular. They kind of came from the commercial side over to the residential side because they're less expensive. For a commercial job, they're great. You're 5 stories in the air.
Larger space.
It's acres of roofing, and it has less chance of getting damaged. On a residential house in one of our neighborhoods that's very wooded, I mean, it's single ply. So that, as you know, when you're building a house, we have lots of work above lower roofs. We can't put those roofs on until the upper work is finished. So so it's a single ply roof. You have to put the actual ending roof on. Then you have everybody walking on it. Then you have to patch it up.
Yep.
Because there's no way that they're going to get done without having some damage. I mean, if it was my house, I would do a 3-ply modified and copper flashing.
Well, and let's also be mindful that because it came from the commercial space, if we had a warehouse that was 50,000 feet of roofing and I did a 4x4, 4-inch by 4-inch patch, that's going to create a 1-layer dam in the middle of the field. But because it's diluted across such a large area, when water hits it and slows down, it picks up with the rest of the current and it can still keep moving. But if I have a small residential roof with TPO 1 layer, and I put, let's say it's only 10 by 10, and I put that 4-inch square patch in the middle of it, now that dam is not diluted by the large volume of water moving across it. So making repairs to a TPO roof residentially I find it very, very difficult to not almost create another problem.
Okay, I agree with that. The patches are easy to do. You clean it, glue it, you're done. They're just very tender. You're asking my personal opinion. I would rather use a 3-ply modified.
Yep.
It's a much tougher roof. We've had better results.
Then how do you prefer, because a flat roof was really dependent on a low pitch typically, so that pitch has to be quarter inch. Would you rather have that slope created by the frame or by the use of like an RMAX panel shaved down?
So that's irrelevant to me on that part. If you get over about 4 inches, the insulation becomes more expensive than doing it out of wood frame.
Got it.
Wood frame is going to be more durable. You can get up there with 4 inches of ISO, of rigid insulation. You stick your heel in it, it's going right through.
Yeah.
You know, so if you're on plywood, it's a more durable. We use a layer of Dinsdeck, which is fireproof sheetrock, to up the fire rating for the home. So, I mean, if we get over a certain pitch, well, let's just say that we have 40 feet of run at a 1/4 inch foot. What is that? 10 inches of ISO board. It's going to be less expensive to build it out of wood.
It would be. And in terms of durability,
and it's a better roof.
Yeah.
It's a better structure, I should say.
Yeah, because if we had mechanical equipment that we then had to walk across on a regular basis, we're going to basically build a valley through that insulation over time.
You have to build channels, well, you have to build up to set the equipment on. You can't set it on the ISO board.
Yeah. So while we're still on flat roofs, how do you feel about porch railing posts right through the top of your TPO?
Well, that happens all the time because the porch rail needs a support. We build pitch pans around every one of them. So, there's not really a way around that.
No, unless architecturally they can come off the fascia and then up and over. But
you still have to waterproof the connection.
You do, most definitely.
Right.
But you all don't do the railings. So do you wait for the railing to get done first?
We work with the railing contractor and the builder to have them install their support post during our roof.
Mm-hmm.
We put flashing pans around each post.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it comes to the end to put the actual railing on, they come bolt or weld that to the existing posts.
So then while we're talking about that, let's go to the next thing that I see on a regular basis. I work on patios. And do you all already waterproof patios, correct?
Yes.
What's your favorite way to put a decorative flooring in on that without creating a problem?
Well, as you've seen through the years, mud set and a tile floor.
Mm-hmm.
As good as everybody is, we're going to have problems one day.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have a $500 roof repair and a $5,000 tile repair.
Yeah.
So through the years, that's happened. The pedestal system that people are using today has become very popular. We're a big fan of it.
Yeah.
So you can put the drains anywhere underneath it. They don't have to be designed in some kind of a architectural layout. And it just, if the client's okay with that, it's okay. And they've increased in quality to where now they have porcelain tiles and they're very attractive.
Yeah, we just installed one like last week. Those pedestal systems are adjustable, so you can get your height with a slope of your decking beneath. So you can put whatever slope that you want to promote good drainage.
Correct.
And then adjust those pedestals. And I think the best thing is, if there is a problem, you're only taking up one tile or two or three tiles or one deck board. In this case, we did a composite deck on top of it with hidden fasteners, so we can just take those off, take two or three planks off, do your repair, put it back on.
So I see you smiling. So you've been through that with the tile, pulling up the mud bed, pulling up the stone.
It's a mess because you're replacing the whole thing. You can't take up just one or two tiles. You rip the whole dang porch off.
It's 10 years old. You're never going to get matching tile. It's going to be a patch.
No, I have entire apartment complexes full of that issue, and we've seen a rise on lightweight concrete coming in on smaller formats, and I think that's been, the insole deck has been beneficial to that. But in many cases, the scupper height and then the finished floor height, especially when we did tile and mud set, the scupper and the tile are at the same height, but the tile absorbs water, so it's actually draining down, hitting the front edge, and it doesn't go to the scupper at all. So we're dealing. I have an entire neighborhood of townhouses where that has been a problem.
And that example of the pedestal system's probably not within their budget.
No,
it's not cheap.
Yeah, but for a custom home, it's a great product to use. And actually, the a lot of the commercial jobs on rooftop features that they're doing, like a lot of these high-rise condos are doing rooftop entertainment areas and hangout spaces for the residents, and it's the best product to use for that kind of situation.
This kind of also came from the commercial end when they were using this to build, and they would just use 1.5-inch concrete pads on the pedestal system on the roofs to have walking surface for all the mechanical, because people are up there working on all the mechanical issues all the time.
Those work great. I think the pricing is going to come down on those, especially when you incorporate their flooring. Right now, the pricing for a pedestal system is more expensive because they're not getting anything from the flooring side. So when you buy a combination flooring plus pedestal, overall the pricing can come down a little bit more than buying them separate from each other.
Right. Yeah.
So
I didn't think it was that expensive. I think that the expense was maybe in the labor on that. The actual pedestals were a few $100 to order them for the whole area that we were doing.
Well, you would know more about that. I mean, what do you pay for a mud set and a tile? Middle range of tile.
I mean, I couldn't tell you a cost per foot on that.
$30 or so, less. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, small areas are going to carry, small porches are going to carry a higher rate because they don't get to dilute it over a large square footage. But All right, so I'm going to ask you about the next product because this is Houston, right? So how many roofs have you done in AstroTurf? Just tell me right now. It's okay. You can tell me how many patios you've AstroTurfed.
0.
But you've had people ask you to AstroTurf it.
Way too many.
Yes. Yes. And now that the fake grass is back on the rise, I've had 3 failures last year due to fake grass.
Okay,
patios.
so there's a pedestal system now that you can get.
Yep.
And instead of the epi wood deck, right? You know about the Ipe wood decks. It's going to be a panel covered in, as we say in Houston, AstroTurf.
Yep.
Artificial turf.
Artificial turf.
grass.
Non-Houstonians.
And actually, they look good.
They do. And pets can use them and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a project around the corner from here, and they did something very similar, except it's actually a 4-inch, basically planting box, 4 inches deep, and it's real grass up there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they put each one is the size of a
there's
piece
some
of sod.
We've done a few living roofs through the years.
Yeah. And I've seen the request for living roofs come down way, way, way down.
And probably because you have to take care of them.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big maintenance program. Your landscaper's probably not going to get up there.
Yeah, you don't want to have to weed eat your roof.
That's exactly right. You know who
they're very heavy.
They're very heavy, and they're heavier when they're wet than when they're dry.
And the structure has to be designed when they're fully wet.
Yep. So then you have combined weight, but also normally the living roof has not been designed for the water loads that we're receiving, and it runs off at a really slow rate. I mean, it does not drain fast. The largest example of that is, look at Carrabba's. Every Carrabba's restaurant for a long period of time had a living roof over the front entry.
I did not know
Yeah,
that.
you'll notice it now when you go by.
Yeah.
Go look at Carrabba's and you'll see plants above their front door on their covered porches, and they kind of moved away from that. Most of the plants, I think, are fake at this point. So, but I most definitely appreciate that. I just came from Amsterdam and Denmark, and everyone has green roofs there, and that's a very normal kind of prophecy.
They do not have the harsh climate that we have.
No, they don't, and they're more understandable about the limitations of houses. They don't believe. I just know this because I asked every strange Dane that I could about what he felt about houses. They understand that things are not perfect and things are not permanent and things are going to have problems, and they probably have their government paying for the repairs. Hell, I don't know. So,
okay, well, that's a whole nother subject.
Yeah, it's a whole other topic of conversation. But so I know you do work here in Houston. Are you all seeing more and more work outside of this city?
As we've grown, so we were in Clear Lake.
Mm-hmm.
So we still have work in Clear Lake, but we have work from Galveston to Austin to San Antonio. We have, Chapel Hill and all those, and Round Top in Houston. Those are all very popular areas. We've been to Corpus Christi a few times. So, we've had clients bring us to New Mexico. We've had clients bring us to Telluride. We've had clients bring us to Colorado. That's uncommon, but
got it.
They're we have with a few builders out in the Texas desert. Some big houses out there.
When I know you're in the Houston Hill Country with me, the Brenhams and Bash Drops and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
All the time. Let's talk about the synthetics, the fake versions of what you sell.
Okay.
Right. And I know we're not supposed to say fake, right? The reimagined clay synthetic. So, really, is there a giant difference in cost? Is this really just a cost play?
No.
Then what's the point of it?
I'm trying to figure that one out.
Is it weight?
So, yes, it is weight. If you're doing a re-roof and you have a comp roof and you're designed for, let's say, 600 pounds or 6 pounds a square foot, you're going to need to go to a synthetic if you want a slate roof.
Got it.
The price difference, we install them the same. Now, I'm sure if you're getting your comp roofer to install a synthetic slate roof, he's going to install it the same way as he installs a comp roof. Mm-hmm. So then it's going to be less expensive. But if you're using copper flashing and it's supposed to be a 50-year roof, you got to use 50-year products. It's going to be 90% the cost and 50% the product.
And to a trained eye, you can tell it's not real. I can walk up to any clay tile or slate and go, pretty sure that's not real right there. You
Yes.
almost definitely can.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And why copper? You keep saying copper. Why not?
It's permanent.
Okay, so explain that, because someone would say that stainless steel is permanent.
certain stainless steels are permanent.
Okay.
You can bring a 306 or 304 to Galveston, it's going to rust.
And what are those numbers that you just said?
Those are to
Purity.
be honest, the purity of the makeup, the metallurgy of the stainless. The copper's going to patina, but it's going to be there. It's just permanent. And it's also old school, but it's also old school because it's there for eternity.
Yep. And how do you avoid formicary corrosion when installing that then? Copper nails with anodized or copper flashing?
No. Copper flashing, copper nails, copper everything. You do not want dissimilar metals.
Yep.
You don't want to use copper flashing and metal gutters.
You sure I can't use a sheetrock screw on copper flashing because I've seen it done?
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
No,
I'm sure you have seen it done.
You can use that.
Thank you.
And then call me in 10 years.
Yep.
I'm going to encourage everyone to do that.
We've been on many jobs where the nails, they were great for 10 years and then the copper eats up the galvanized and the nail. Now you have hundreds, if not thousands of little bitty 16th inch holes in the roof and where the nails have rusted out.
Yep.
A great example of this for people who aren't familiar is if you're probably more likely to have seen this with plumbing, where you put like a galvanized pipe with a copper fitting where those two dissimilar metals are connecting to each other. You get this corrosion, and eventually it just eats all the way through and falls apart. And so that's why they sell a dielectric fitting to connect those two dissimilar metals. So same thing on roofing. You can want to use copper flashing and use a zinc nail. Right.
So we also, which we hadn't talked about, we do a lot of wood roofs, very popular these days. So now they're all fire retardant.
Yeah. So how did we go from everyone, as soon as you lost your shake roof in the 80s, you could not go back with it, but now we can go back with wood shake roofs. What's changed?
So we now fire treat the wood shingles, the cedar wood shingles, okay, which is the problem about dissimilar metals. The chemical in that they fire treat the wood with eats up galvanized nails.
Really?
So you have to use copper or stainless nails. So we've re-roofed some wood shingle roofs where all of a sudden the shingles are blowing off the roof, and where the nail is through the wood roof, it rusts in half. So all the nail heads are popping off everywhere
because of the materials, the fire retardant materials, chemicals that are impregnated into the wood shake.
Yes.
Which is generally white cedar or red cedar?
Red cedar, Canadian red cedar.
Will eat through a non-copper nail.
Will eat through the galvanizing of a steel nail.
Got it. And then that normally takes about 3 years or so, 3 to 5 years.
Probably more than that, 5 to 10.
Okay. And I know that we've seen that problem, especially when the shake has been taking down the side of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Because, of course, we have gravity working for us at a higher rate. And you'll do that too. So if you have a product that you need to roll around a vertical surface, you don't have a problem doing that.
No.
Okay.
You're going to probably not see as much on a wall because those shingles are not code-wise forced to be fire retardant.
Got it.
Like a roof is.
I have not seen any wood shake roofs coming back around. Is that something that's popped up more in the last couple of years?
We do quite a few.
Yeah.
And there's a product called Wallaba, which is a very silver. It's from South America. It's kind of a low-grade mahogany. Beautiful roof.
Yep. And actually patinas, the way it patinas, the ribbing on it will grow, so it actually becomes more robust in view. It doesn't. It's not like Ipe.
No.
Which we can get into a whole reason why you don't stain Ipe. Ipe should be Ipe, and I have a ton of rotten Ipe all over town I'm dealing with because they put varnish on it.
Oh.
You're not supposed to do that.
You have to leave it breathe.
You can use an oil on it, an oil-based finish.
Use wax.
That saturates into it. So the wood shingle products, you can also install those like shingle siding as well.
Yes.
Kind of like a Cape Cod style, coastal house type siding.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think we're seeing more of that because of our coastal influences have shifted back to the Northeast. For the last 15 or 20 years, it has been primarily Southern influence on our coastal structures. So we're seeing a little more. I mean, I'm doing a salt box right now with really, really narrow gauge siding, shake roof, not even that big of a house, 2,800 square foot, box over box, federal style windows, all that kind of stuff. It's going to be really, really cool. And that roof, I love a shake roof. I think it's beautiful. especially given the fact that the wetter it gets out, the more the shingle will swell. So it actually helps seal off that roof at a higher rate. But when it dries out, I'll have people call up and they say, hey, I can see we have a project right now, and I don't know if I've already called you about this or not, but they did white underlayment under the shake. And now that it's gotten really dry out, the shake has shrunk a little bit, and they can see the white underlayment through some of the shake from the street. And I'm like, well, your roof's shrunk up quite a lot.
They're really looking.
Well, they're really, really looking, yes. And they're also looking at it from a second floor window. So I'm like, hey, that's just the reality of your roof situation. So let's talk about underlayments. Is there a particular underlayment that because you all install those underlayments?
Yeah, we use our synthetic underlayment. We use a titanium.
Mhm.
It's called titanium. The
Okay.
brand name's titanium. It's just a synthetic. It's got some webbing to it, makes it very easy to walk on.
Mhm.
And our base primary underlayment is Grace Ice and Water Shield.
Got it.
We've used other products, and we just always go back, and now we don't go back. We just keep it. They've been around the longest, and it's the warranties are the best, and I don't want to have a problem.
And it's a self-sealing membrane. So as
It's
those nails,
self-sealing.
yep. And that titanium product actually self-seals around a lot larger of a fastener than most others do.
Well, so we put the titanium on so it has walkability for really all the other trades because they have to get on the roof. And then it's a sacrifice sheet. If the bricklayer gets it all dirty, we just rip that section off, put a new one on there. The ice and water shield that's below it's brand new because it's never been exposed to the sun. And we just go on down. And
So speaking of sun, we do have UV limitations on that peel and stick or that weather resistant barrier that's been laid down. When you're looking at a bid and it's a big house and you know that it's going to take 2.5 years to build it, do you just go ahead and price in 2 layers of that underlayment?
no, we put one layer of the synthetic over it.
Okay.
It's a sacrifice sheet. The 90 days to 120
Mhm.
days, whatever the product, the Grace Ice and Water Shield, the peel and stick
Mhm.
is pretty much eliminated because it's not in the sun.
Yeah.
It's underneath the synthetic. The bricklayers walk over to the synthetic. They get concrete, cement, grout all over it. We just take that section off and put a new one on, and we're
Great.
good as we were the first day.
So this is a question for Toner because I get this question a lot, and I've given some different answers. I want to hear your take. You know, you're a fan of using zip sheathing. What's your take on using the zip for roof decking?
Well, I mean, there is a very particular zip roof deck, one that's meant specifically for that. And it's more of
Yes.
a burnt orange color.
Yes.
I like it, especially because we've been designing more of our houses to start getting into the fortified build standard. So technically, you would have that type of decking go down. It has an impregnated or a built-in weather-resistant barrier, but then we're going to be liquid flashing all the seams. So the idea is the roof gets blown off, and the house still doesn't leak. So we're leaning into that. Robert and I have worked on a continuously insulated product, which we're using on our low pitch applications where we can't necessarily get in there and add enough insulation to offset the heat load. So we've been doing basically a SIPS panel or a structurally insulated panel where we're doing that 7 inches of deck, 2 inches of rock wool, then the zip deck, then we're installing it. But I found that when I have that product on a non-tile roofs of Texas job, it's like I have to take them all to school again. And it's not a lot of fun. I'm dealing with that right now. So
You know, I've seen the zip advertised as you don't need to put an underlayment on top of it
Mhm.
if you're using the zip, right? But every roofer that I've talked to says, no, there's no way that I'll warranty my job unless I also put the ice and water shield or another underlayment.
We are 100% on board with that. We are not going to warranty a roof without an underlayment. We don't even like doing houses where they don't use underlayment on the walls. I mean, a sheathing like Tyvek. Turner and I think we're in a little bit of a disagreement on this. So we have head wall flashing. The head wall's coming up behind the finished wall. They paint it with red guard or whatever
Liquid
the product
flashing.
is by Zip,
Yep.
liquefied flashing. Our issue is it's just not idiot proof, as we want to call it. I mean, it's, if there's dirt, a bump or something, you have a fish mouth in the top of the flashing, the water gets through the brick or the stucco comes down the wall. and there's no shingling over the lower to help get the water to the bottom of the flashing and outside of the wall.
And our view on that is, and we still have lots of clients that do belts and suspenders. It's not hurting anything to still do an additional underlayment.
No, never.
Never. I do have some people that earn their way out of it over time from being confident in it. But if someone's comfortable with it, great, as long as it doesn't compromise something. Like if it's a corrugated material and they try to wrap it into the rough opening, we do have to understand where that drainage plane is, how it's supposed to function, and make sure it's going to pass the pen test, right? So if someone wants to keep doing that, that's awesome. I do see people misusing some of these products, especially underlayments that they believe are class 1 vapor barriers, and they're actually not, and they're a little over dependent on it. I've seen people Grace Ice and Water Shield the junk out of houses, and they're using the product in places it's not meant to be used. So they're just feeling like, well, I'll just tape the crap out of it and hope that comes out okay. I think there's some overconfidence in that. But also we're fortunate that most of the projects you and I are on together, the cost of that extra underlayment is not going to break the deal. Yeah. So,
I mean, everybody has a budget. So,
yeah. I think though that, Zip kind of markets that product as, well, if you use Zip, you don't have to use underlayment. If you use Zip, you don't have to do a house wrap. And so, I've had clients push back and say, well, why are we paying to do the underlayment? Why are we paying to put, either Tyvek or,
blue skin these days.
Yeah. In any of the wraps on top of the Zip. And I'm like, well, the roofer's not going to warranty it unless we do this. We need a rain screen behind our, stucco or siding. So we're going to wrap it with something else. And there's some pushback because we're adding extra costs that we don't need to add, but we tell them, well, we have to do that.
I may be speaking out of turn, but
Never.
Zip, they are warranty their product. They're not warrantying the house not to leak.
Right.
They're warrantying their product not to fail.
Right.
But by the time you rip it apart to find that failure, that's very hard to do.
I don't disagree with that.
Yep.
What I'm saying is we're warrantying the house not to leak.
Right.
Yep.
So there's a push and pull there.
And in terms of, we started this conversation about why you use your own trades, you don't subcontract. There's not a whole lot of people who touch the exterior of the house that carry 100% of their own trade. The bricker does not carry 100% of the wall warranty. The framer, the guy who installed the window, it's actually a problem when we have wall envelope issues because 5 different people are part of that assembly. The roof is the roof. If it leaks, it's you, right? And
100%.
If it doesn't leak, then great. That's awesome. And there will be times in the next 10 years it's going to leak, right? Because it still has design parameters. It's not rated for 70 mile an hour wind blown moisture that could blow up through
Or tree limbs
or lack of maintenance. So how do you get past that? How do you get past, I guarantee you drive by houses and you look about it and you're like, they're not taking care of that roof.
Well, I would say with us, almost every one of our clients, we sign a maintenance program for 10 years that they renew every once in a while. And we get up there once a year or twice a year and we clean the gutters, we clean the roof, we check it out, we fix it, whatever minor repairs so they don't become large repairs, just like a landscaper. I mean, they're out there every week. We're not out there every week, but at least once a year. Some of these big houses, people don't go to certain parts of the house for years.
Yep.
Kids move out, nobody's upstairs.
Yep.
All of a sudden one day the sheetrock's falling through.
Yeah, we touch on this all the time on this show. Is using all the right products is great. Doing things the right way is great. There has to be continuing, ongoing homeowner maintenance or maintenance by another third party that's checking these things, because the average person's not going to get on their roof and clean their own gutters and check their shingles or whatever, right?
Right.
Yep.
Just like they're not going to get out there and check the caulking on the windows. They're not going to check the AC drain lines to make sure they're not clogged up.
Yep. And especially, and we're almost done here, and I want to talk because people are going to be interested in what you do. You will do work on other people's roofs, the roofs that you have not installed.
Oh,
correct?
definitely.
Okay.
And we have a full maintenance. We have 3 trucks, full maintenance. All we do is repair and maintenance.
Got it.
Besides our install side.
Great. So if someone wants to get hold of you, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
They call my office at 713-733-4555, or they go to the web at tileroofsoftexas.com.
Got it. And tile roofs does not mean just tile roofs. You can do
Not anymore. Yeah. Yeah. In the beginning, that's exactly what we did. And we do lots of that. But yeah.
That's a great spot to wrap it up, obviously. Toner, you're on here all the time, and I never really get a chance to let you pitch your services real quick. We have Toner on here all the time, and I think the very first time he was on, he talked some about what he does. But just real quick, give us a recap of what you do and how they can contact you to work with Toner Home Matters.
Sure, and we kind of suffer from that. I don't really talk about my organization very much at all. I mean, I have family members who still don't know what I do. So we are a building performance company, and we do one of three things. We're either there at the beginning of the project to do building performance design it to work properly with the climate, the construction, and the client, or we'll come later on and do the building performance forensics, houses that are misbehaving. So Robert and I do a lot of work together on that kind of stuff, figuring out what is the root cause issue and how to resolve it. And then the third part of our business is doing building performance litigation support, hopefully pre-litigation resolution when people are upset with each other. And this is where Curtis and I work on a lot of projects together. We try to help them resolve those issues. But if not, then we manage all the experts to come in and defend one of the sides in the litigation.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah.
Let me just say one thing about Toner. So he recognized years ago that there's issues with homes, and it's between the AC and the roofer and the plumber. And you try and get all these people together and everybody's pointing fingers. And through that, he's gotten everybody together, and now we design it from the beginning. He has single-handedly created his own industry, and he's really helping, especially on these large homes. I mean, they're buildings, and they need to be done right, and he's really done a good job at it. So
well, and I can only do it. I can only do it when I have good relationship with the partners that make our specifications happen properly. So that's the beauty of Texas. That's the beauty of where we live. Is we all are not only colleagues, but we're also business buddies, and we all support each other. And good people working with good people only makes for good results.
Yep. Homes are systems. They have to be treated as a system, not as a bunch of individual products that are thrown together. And so that's where Toner comes in. That's where someone like Robert and the rest of our team comes together to create the right system for your structure. So,
yep.
Well, okay, everybody, thanks for joining us. That's going to wrap us up for today. This issue about building performance failures and roofing and beyond failures. We just talked about kind of some different products and the right way to do things. I think it was a great conversation. So, Robert, thanks so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Robert.
Yay,
Thank you.
and Toner, thanks as always. And thank you all for listening and watching. We'll catch you next time. Take care.